Science is supposed to benefit humanity, right? But what happens when it starts creating things that look more like monsters than miracles? We're talking about brain-controlling rats, pigs with human traits, and bioluminescent animals that feel totally freakish. No, this isn't a sci-fi movie. It's real science, and it's unfolding right now in front of our eyes. These aren't just experiments. They're warnings that we're crossing lines we may never be able to step back from. So, join us for today's video as we're diving into the 15 most terrifying creatures created by science. Number 15. Creepy cyborg crawlers. This one might be the creepiest thing on the entire list. We mean cockroaches that can be remote-controlled like tiny walking gadgets. Engineers actually rigged these nasty little monsters with microtech and called it innovation. Whether it's useful or disturbing depends on who you ask. Here's how it works. Researchers mounted solar-powered backpacks and microchips onto Madagascar hissing cockroaches. These devices deliver electric signals straight into the bug's nerves, letting scientists steer them left, right, and all around. Basically, it's a bug on autopilot. It sounds ridiculous, until you realize the goal is search and rescue. They're planning to use these robo-roaches in disaster zones, crawling through wreckage where humans can't fit. Cool in theory, but still seriously off. You're turning a living creature into a tool, literally hijacking its nervous system. Some say it's no worse than lab rats. Others think it crosses a line. When you see a roach wearing tech and moving like a drone, we mean it's less genius, more nightmare. Number 14. Mammoth mice. Science is getting bolder than ever. Researchers have now created woolly mice by inserting genes from the long-extinct woolly mammoth into regular lab mice. Yes, tiny rodents growing thick, prehistoric fur. All of it is part of a much bigger project to bring the mammoth itself back from extinction. Scientists took the genes responsible for the mammoth's heavy coat and inserted them into mice to see if they could survive in colder environments. It worked. These genetically altered mice grew warm, mammoth-like fur and tolerated freezing temperatures. But what's the real endgame here? It's de-extinction, using ancient DNA to recreate animals lost to history. Sounds brilliant, but it raises serious questions. Just because we can bring traits back, should we? Would resurrected mammoths fit into today's world, or throw ecosystems into chaos? These woolly mice might be tiny test runs, but they point to a future where species revival is real. Whether it's genius or madness depends on what comes next. Number 13. Mind-hacked rodents. Science has been doing some wild stuff lately, but this one's straight up unhinged. What happens when rats can operate machines, using thought alone? Yeah, that's not fiction. It's real. Researchers at Duke University pulled off something outrageous. They implanted tiny brain chips into rats, allowing them to move robotic gear with their minds. There are no paws or joysticks. It's just a raw thought-to-tech response. These little dudes are like the alpha version of mind-linked cyborgs. And it gets even more unhinged. 2 rats, connected to brain-machine interfaces, were able to transmit signals across continents. One in North Carolina, the other in Brazil. Not messages, brain waves, they were literally syncing thoughts. Scientists call it a brain-to-brain interface, but it screams Black Mirror. Sure, it's all in the name of medical innovation, helping paralyzed patients and all that. But rats moving robots with their brains and syncing across the globe? That's eerie. If rats are doing this now, what exactly are we letting happen next? Number 12. Gene-hacked mosquitoes. This one feels like a win on paper. Scientists are using CRISPR gene editing to alter mosquitoes so they can't carry malaria or reproduce normally. The hope is that these genetic tweaks will either eliminate certain mosquito populations or make them harmless to us. Since mosquitoes are responsible for spreading malaria to hundreds of millions, this could save lives on a massive scale. But once you start deleting entire species from nature's blueprint, there's no pause button. Mosquitoes might be pests to us, but they're vital food sources for bats, birds, and fish. And then there's the risk of mutation. What happens if edited genes behave unpredictably once released into the wild? Some experts call it revolutionary, while others warn it's a biological gamble we can't afford to lose. Once these modified insects are let loose, they can't be pulled back. This isn't just about malaria. It's about reshaping the balance of ecosystems without fully knowing what we're triggering. Number 11. Frankenfish. You know why scientists altered salmon DNA? To make them grow nearly twice as fast as wild ones. These aren't just fish. They're Aqua Bounty's AquAdvantage salmon, modified to hit market size in a fraction of the usual time. Here's how. Scientists took a growth hormone gene from Chinook salmon and combined it with DNA from an ocean pout, an eel-like fish that thrives in icy waters. This mix allows the salmon to grow all year long, not just seasonally. The result? A fish that matures in half the time and boosts profits for fish farms. But here's the part that makes people squirm. These fish are genetically reprogrammed to override nature. The speed, the size, it's not normal. Critics say we're crossing lines just to get faster food. And once genetically modified animals enter the food chain, there's no going back. So, is this an efficient seafood breakthrough? Or a biotech Frankenstein we'll regret unleashing into our oceans and dinner plates? Number 10. Spider silk goats. Let's talk about something that sounds like it crawled out of a failed comic book experiment. Spider goats. Yes, you heard that right. Scientists have made goats that produce spider silk in their milk. Not a joke. This is legit. And it might totally reshape how we manufacture ultra-strong materials. How'd they pull it off? Researchers inserted genes from orb-weaving spiders into goats, giving them the ability to generate silk proteins in their milk. Once extracted, those proteins can be spun into fibers tougher than steel, more elastic than nylon, and even stronger than Kevlar, which means this stuff could end up in surgical threads, body armor, and beyond. The twist? Spiders don't spin enough silk for mass use, and they're kind of a pain to farm. But goats? Easy to breed, easy to milk. Still, the whole goat with spider DNA concept is deeply unsettling to some. A biotech game changer or nature gone off script? Either way, spider goats are real. Number 9. Primate-human hybrids. Now we know you won't believe this, but it's 100% real. Researchers have successfully blended human and monkey cells to create hybrid embryos. And no, this isn't a rumor or hypothetical theory. Scientists actually inserted human stem cells into monkey embryos and allowed them to develop together for a short time. The purpose behind this was to explore early human development and find better ways to grow transplantable human organs inside animals. While it might sound like a medical leap, the ethical backlash is huge. What happens if those human cells migrate into the monkey's brain? Could we end up with a creature that thinks, feels, or acts like a person? If we blur that line, what even counts as human anymore? Some scientists defend this as a breakthrough in regenerative medicine, but others argue we're opening a door that can't be shut. The reality is, this isn't science fiction anymore. It's already happening, and the consequences could be more than we're ready for. It is super terrifying. Number 8. Low-fart cows. Here's something you probably didn't expect. Scientists are engineering cows that burp and fart less. Sounds wild, but it's real. Cows release huge amounts of methane, a greenhouse gas far more destructive than carbon dioxide. So, to fight climate change, researchers are figuring out how to make cows less gassy. It might sound ridiculous, but it's serious science. One method? Feeding cows red seaweed. Just a small addition slashes methane output by nearly 40%. Another option, selective breeding to create cows that naturally produce less gas. Livestock farming is one of the biggest sources of methane pollution, and every belch adds up. Supporters call it smart climate tech. Critics wonder what this will do to the cow's health, or the food we get from them. Could it mess with meat or milk? Could it affect digestion long term? Nobody's sure. But one thing's clear. This is one of the weirdest approaches to sustainability yet. What do you think? Number 7. Lab-made songbird. This one toes the line between wonder and discomfort. Scientists genetically modified songbirds to study how the brain processes language and memory. They focused on zebra finches, birds that learn to sing much like humans learn to speak. By altering specific genes related to vocal learning and brain development, researchers hope to uncover how language forms, what triggers memory, and how speech disorders take root. These modified birds weren't just chirping, they were helping decode the science of communication. But the twist is that once you start changing brain genes, the outcome isn't always predictable. What if their intelligence increases? What if their songs become more complex or closer to human speech? These aren't parrots mimicking words. These are reprogrammed animals whose brains are literally being edited. The research could help fight diseases like Alzheimer's, but it also opens the door to something we're not sure we can handle: birds with altered cognition and possibly higher awareness, shaped entirely by our curiosity. What do you think? Is it safe to play God? Number 6. Pig-human hybrids. Well, now, here's one straight up unsettling. Scientists have made pig-human chimeras, pigs carrying human cells. The mission? To grow transplantable human organs inside animals. Researchers inject human stem cells into pig embryos, hoping those cells develop into usable organs inside the pig's body. If successful, a patient could one day receive a lab-grown organ that's a genetic match. But there's a reason this has raised major ethical alarms. What if those human cells don't just become organs? What if they migrate to the pig's brain or nervous system? Could we accidentally create pigs with traces of human awareness, emotions, or worse, intelligence? At what point do they stop being just pigs? Supporters say it could solve organ shortages and save countless lives. Critics say it's tampering with lines we don't fully understand. One thing's certain: mixing human and animal DNA like this brings medical science into a territory that's hard to explain, and impossible to undo once it crosses a certain point. Number 5. Lab-made mini-pigs. Picture a pig small enough to curl up in your lap. Cute? Maybe. But these micro-pigs aren't just small, they were engineered to stay that way permanently. Developed in China for research, they unexpectedly became popular as novelty pets. But here's where it gets strange. Scientists edited their genes, removing key growth functions in their DNA to keep them miniature. The outcome? Tiny pigs that look adorable but are genetically altered for life. And while they seem like the perfect quirky pet, it's not that simple. Pigs, no matter the size, are still pigs. They're smart, demanding, and need far more care than most people realize. On top of that, gene edits don't always go according to plan. Some micro-pigs still grow larger than expected, leaving owners stuck with pigs that no longer fit the label. And behind all that cuteness is an unsettling question. Should we really be editing animals just because we think they'd make trendy pals? Number 4. Ear-growing mouse. This one still unsettles people decades later, a living mouse with a human-shaped ear growing out of its back. And no, it wasn't the result of some strange mutation or DNA crossover. It was called the vacanti mouse, and it was built to advance tissue engineering. In the 1990s, scientists implanted a biodegradable ear-shaped mold under the mouse's skin and seeded it with cartilage cells. Over time, those cells grew around the mold and formed what looked like a full human ear. The mouse wasn't genetically modified. It simply served as a living incubator for developing body parts. The goal was to find ways to regrow tissue for burn victims, birth defects, or reconstructive surgeries. But once the photos hit the public, people were horrified. It looked like science had merged humans and animals. In reality, it hadn't. Still, it left the world wondering. If we can grow human parts on animals, What's next? And more importantly, should we? Number 3. Zombie dogs unleashed. Back in the early 2000s, military-funded researchers began chilling experiments with suspended animation using dogs. It wasn't fiction. It wasn't a metaphor. It was real. They drained blood from the dogs and replaced it with freezing saline, dropping their body temperature until everything, including the heart, flatlined. No pulse, no brain activity. Technically, they were dead. Hours later, the scientists warmed them up, pumped blood back in, and brought them back. No brain damage, no permanent effects. The goal? Buy time in trauma situations like battlefield injuries or ER blood loss. Freeze the body long enough to survive. It's not about zombie pets, but the method feels like something out of a medical thriller. People were split. Some saw it as life-saving progress. Others said it was cruel. But one thing's clear. This is as close to reanimating the dead as modern medicine's ever come. The fact that these dogs came back after hours of clinical death still unsettles people to this day. And it should. I mean, why not? Number 2. Resurrected thylacine. Scientists are now trying something straight out of a genetic resurrection playbook, bringing the extinct Tasmanian tiger, or thylacine, back to life. As strange as it sounds, this isn't fiction. Researchers are using preserved thylacine DNA and combining it with living cells from the fat-tailed dunnart, a tiny marsupial that's its closest living relative. They're editing the dunnart's genome to match that of the extinct predator. The plan is to eventually breed thylacine-like animals and reintroduce them into the wilds of Australia and Tasmania. While it might sound like conservation-turned-miracle science, it raises a serious question. Are we actually reviving the species, or just building a synthetic version? These animals won't be true thylacines. They'll be engineered replicas based on old code. Some see this as redemption for human-driven extinction. Others worry it could backfire, disrupting ecosystems or releasing unstable hybrids. Even if they succeed, what we'll get isn't the past restored. It's a scientific replica of what used to be. Number 1. GMO milk cows. Well, it sounds like a dream. Milk without allergic reactions. But the truth behind it is a little less cozy. Scientists have created genetically modified cows that produce milk without the proteins that trigger dairy allergies. It's wild. Using gene editing tech, they remove the allergens from the cow's DNA, resulting in milk that's supposedly safer to drink. For those with dairy sensitivity, this could be huge. No more bloating, rashes, or dangerous reactions. But here's the weird part. These aren't regular cows. Their DNA was altered in a lab, not by nature. And even if the science checks out, the long-term effects aren't clear. What happens when we start drinking modified milk every day? Could it mess with human biology? Could it change the cows in ways we don't yet understand? Some folks say this is progress. Others say it's just another step toward turning animals into custom-built food machines. Either way, these cows are nothing like the ones on your childhood farm. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, share it, and subscribe for more amazing stories like this. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll see you soon.